Hey guys, so I just finished watching Reign of the Supermen on 4K HDR, the sequel to The Death of Superman, which came out about 6 months ago. So this DC animated film is based on the book The Death of Superman. That book is one of my favorite reads. It's a really great graphic novel, and it came at a time where the DC Comics really needed to change things up and get things moving. They had a bit of a slump in sales, so they really had to kind of mix it up a little bit, and by killing Superman, one of the biggest heroes in the comic staple, was guaranteed to bring some sales. So they invented Doomsday, who killed Superman, and then we did have a bunch of imposters turn up later on in that book. So we had Superman Doomsday, one of the DC animated films, out years ago. It was very much an abridged version of the tale, so they decided to revisit this story because it was so big and have The Death of Superman and then part 2, The Reign of the Superman, which brings to conclusion the Death of Superman's story arc. So the Death of Superman was touched very briefly in Zack Snyder's Batman vs Superman: The Dawn of Justice and its follow-up Justice League. Not even really worth telling, actually, because the way they covered it in the live action movies was just laughable. Superman hadn't actually earned the adoration that he gets from humanity yet in the live action films, versus in the comics and in the cartoons. Superman is an idolized figure. He's the beacon of hope throughout all of humanity, and his death really shook the world up a lot. So I didn't really feel that in the Batman vs Superman movie or Justice League, because according to the canon of the live action films, Superman wasn't beloved. A lot of people were kind of like questioning Superman's place in the world and who this alien being was that was coming down and destroying their cities. So aside from that, let's talk about Reign of the Supermen. Now, bear with me, I've got a bit of a sore throat. I've been off sick a bit. So Reign of the Supermen, with the voice talents of Jerry O'Connell as Superman, Rebecca Romijn as Lois Lane, real life husband and wife duo there, Rainn Wilson as Lex Luthor. I can really give or take Rainn Wilson, to be perfectly honest with you, but I thought his voice work as Lex Luthor was pretty good. We had Patrick Fabian as Cyborg Superman and Hank Henshaw. Might touch on spoilers briefly here, so hopefully you've read the book and you have a basic understanding of what's going on. Even reading out the cast list is kind of going to give away a lot of it. Charles Halford as Bibbo Bobowski and the Eradicator, Cameron Monaghan as Superboy, Cress Williams, who's also Black Lightning in the TV series, is doing the voice of Steel, John Henry Irons. I actually used to go to school with John Irons, that was a long time ago. Rosario Dawson returns as Wonder Woman. Nathan Fillion is back as Green Lantern, and man, if only we could get him in the live action version. Christopher Gorman as The Flash, Shimar Moore as Cyborg, Nyambi as Martian Manhunter, Jason O'Mara as Batman, and he does a great job too. And we got Rocky Carroll as Perry White. Now, the cast do a pretty good job. The voice work in these films is usually pretty top-notch. They have a pretty good rotating roster, so in different versions of the films, we might have a different superhero take, or another Justice League or a Superman or a Batman or a Wonder Woman movie, and I'll have another cast performing the vocals. And I like that they have this rotating roster of people. It gives each animated film a flavor of its own, which I think is really cool. So basically the plot of this one is Superman's dead. It's 6 months later, and suddenly 4 mysterious super beings turn up, all claiming to be Superman. We have got, now this is where I'm going to touch on the spoilers a little bit. We got Superboy, who's actually a clone created by Lex Luthor, Superman's DNA and Lex Luthor's DNA. We got Cyborg Superman, who is basically the villain of the piece. Hank Henshaw, who is also featured in Supergirl, the TV series, is an astronaut who... No.
Go ahead.
No, shut up. Hank Henshaw is an astronaut whose body's gone missing in space, actually discovered by Darkseid, who then turns him into Cyborg Superman and sends him back to Earth to turn a lot of humans into power batteries, for want of a better word, to open up a gateway so that Darkseid can come to Earth and make new apocalypse. We got the Eradicator, which is basically a Kryptonian defense mechanism created by the Fortress of Solitude, who is out to maintain a vigil and protect Superman while he's actually in his old rocket ship that he came to Earth as a child, regenerating. And then we have Steel, John Henry Irons, who adopts superhero armor, very much like Iron Man, while Superman is otherwise indisposed. So all these Superman imposters turn up, all claiming to be Superman, and each with their own agenda. Lex Luthor controlling Superboy, the Eradicator, who is a little bit too violent, but, you know, stepping in Superman's role. Steel, who's trying to do the right thing by people, and then Cyborg Superman, who is, you know, a puppet of Darkseid. The animated movies are very much drawn from the same cloth. They all look fairly basic in their design, but the simplicity is what makes it really, really nice. The one scene, though, did really kind of stand out a little bit, where the animation team really did bring the character of Cyborg Superman to life when he's having his monologue at the end of the film. The animation in his face was really quite animated. There's a lot more detail than normal in one of these films, and the way the character moved and the fluid nature of the animation really was something different from the standard animated fare, and it was quite striking. Yeah, and I've always said I've loved the animation, and what the animated films do is just so much an improvement on the live action stuff. So I'm hoping that live action stuff does catch up. I do have a bit of hope in the worlds of DC and the direction they're taking with the live action stuff. Aquaman being a good step in that course correction. So hopefully with Shazam and Wonder Woman 2, the Batman with Matt Reeves, that looks like it could potentially be amazing. So hopefully that ship is going to be sailing correctly. But they do have a lot of catching up in regards to the animated stuff. It's always been so good. I've got a massive collection down here. I've got everything that's been released in the animated format. God, there's like 20 DVDs. I can't actually fit this one on the shelf now because it's full. The 4K resolution in this transfer also very good. The animation is just built for 4K, and the HDR, I didn't really notice it a lot in this film, to be honest, because it was kind of like a darker tone through the whole film, so there weren't a lot of vibrant colors. I know that's ironic considering we've got all these beautiful superheroes in this film, and Superman with his bright blues and his red cape. Nothing really was eye-popping. Not saying it wasn't good, it's just that the HDR is very downplayed for me in this one. Being an animated film, it is really weird. But the clarity of the image was superb, and the surround sound was incredible as well. There was a lot of fights in this, there was a lot of bone crunches in this one, and explosions, and the deep baritone of Batman and Superman's voices. Fantastic. So I can't really knock the transfer at all. I mean, I love the 4K transfer of these animated films so much. I've actually picked up The Killing Joke and Batman Assault on Arkham. So I own these two already on Blu-ray, but because they're releasing them on 4K, I'm definitely going to pick them up again because they just look fantastic. So I've got those to put onto the shelf as well now. So yeah, Reign of Superman was a very decent follow-up to The Death of Superman. Comparing the two, I think I prefer The Death of Superman more. It was a very emotional, impactful story, and conveying the death of Superman was really, like I said, quite emotional and had real impact on me. And yeah, The Reign of Superman, it just doesn't have that same resonance because it's a different story. It's about the return of Superman and his resurrection, and it was a lot of fun. One side note though, the Superman symbol on the Eradicator version of Superman was actually the S symbol, which is featured quite prominently on Henry Cavill in the live action Superman films, whereas every other character in the film, including Superman himself in the black suit no less, is the traditional S. So I found that interesting, and I was wondering if DC was trying to tell us something, because the Eradicator was like a fake version of Superman. Is Henry Cavill a fake version of the Superman in the live action? I don't want to stir any pots or anything. But yeah, we do have Superman in his black suit and his long hair and completely powerless. So the finale of this was quite cool. A lot of brutal fight scenes. The animated movies don't pull punches when it comes to the ratings either. This is rated M. So there is violence in these films and the occasional S-bomb. I think one of them actually had an F-bomb, I can't remember, maybe The Killing Joke. But I love how the animated films do skew more to a more mature audience, which I really enjoy as well, because, you know, being a mature audience. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in. I hope you like my review on Reign of Superman. Have you seen it? What do you think? Leave a comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.